Immediately following the first attack, I implemented our government's emergency response plans. Immediately following the first attack, I implemented our government's emergency response plans. Immediately following the first attack, I implemented our government's emergency response plans. Immediately following the first attack, I implemented our government's emergency response plans. Immediately following the first attack, I implemented our government's emergency response plans.
A sunny morning and a summit looming. Tony Blair knew this would be a difficult day. He had no idea how testing it was about to become. Terrorism was not on his G8 agenda as he strode from a terrace breakfast with a confident President Bush. But as they walked, the bombs were heading for their targets. Into a briefing where the mood was upbeat, an Olympic triumph and a presidential bike crash lightening the mood.
But thank you for your leadership. This is going to be a successful summit.
We listened, they left. Our pictures record this moment at almost exactly 8:51 when the bomb at Liverpool Street Station exploded.
Mayor Giuliani is with us at the moment. Mr. Mayor, can you hear me?
I can, Peter.
Mr. Mayor, I saw you several times on the street today, and it looked like you were deeply sharing the horror that all of us feel. But I'd really appreciate, aside from, on top of your sentiments about all this, give us some sense of what's going on. You're reluctant, I assume, to put any other name attached to the casualties except significant. Do you believe it's hundreds or thousands?
I really don't. I really don't want to say right now, Peter. I think it's going to be a horrible number. I saw people jumping out of the World Trade Center. I saw some of the firefighters who I know going into the building. And we were in a building in which we were trapped for about 10-15 minutes.
Are you talking about did you go immediately to the Office of Emergency Management?
No, I went down to the scene and we set up headquarters at 75 Barclay Street, which was right there with the police commissioner, the fire commissioner, the head of emergency management. And we were operating out of there when we were told that the World Trade Center was going to collapse.
For me, this is a particularly personal experience because I lived through September 11, 2001, and then I lived through the attack in London a few years later. I was a half block away from the first bomb that went off.
All right, thanks indeed, Becky. Now let's go straight away to our Westminster studios. Rudy Giuliani, the man who was mayor of New York City, of course, at the time of the 9/11 attacks, joins us from there. Thank you very much, sir. I guess this day bringing back memories for you.
Oh, yes. I mean, I feel a great deal of empathy. I'm sure all my fellow New Yorkers do for the people of London and what they're going through. I was at Liverpool Station this morning, right near there. We found out about the attack right away, the bombing right away.
Did you immediately think it was a bombing, or perhaps just a regular
the first
incident?
report that we received was it was either an accident or a bombing. They didn't know which, and then when the second one was reported, it was clear that this was some kind of planned action.
We were told that the FBI and the CIA were pretty much clueless about what was coming down the pike on September 11th, but on the day of September 11th, they knew it was bin Laden right away, they knew that there were 19 hijackers right away, they knew that it was Al-Qaeda right away. You know, I don't know how they so quickly, you know, after being so incredibly clueless, were able to just, you know, find all these dots and connect them.
He's on almost everyone's list of the most likely suspects for today's attacks.
The alleged mastermind, America's most wanted terrorist, Osama bin Laden.
He has described the United States as the devil. This is the beast.
Meanwhile, Osama bin Laden is a name that we have been hearing all day long.
They now believe that bin Laden was responsible.
Today, the FBI is releasing photographs of 19 individuals believed to be the hijackers aboard the 4 airliners that crashed on September 11th.
These are the faces of those who carried out the 4 attacks. And over the past week, the FBI have been trying to piece together how they lived, where, and with whom.
My first question was, I think immediately, where did they get the pictures of the hijackers that day, the following day after 9/11? I said that's fishy.
Within 48 hours of the attack, you have the FBI being able to name, photograph the 19 hijackers and know exactly who performed, these atrocious attacks on the United States of America.
A now visibly tense man. There was simply solidarity. The meeting began on time. Then 3 hours and 9 minutes after the first bomb, it fell to the Prime Minister to confirm to the world that this was a terrorist attack.
8 hours after the bombs went off, the Prime Minister addressed the nation.
This has been a most terrible and tragic atrocity. We know that these people act in the name of Islam.
On the basis of the evidence that I was given, Tony Blair's statement went beyond the facts.
If London could survive the Blitz, it can survive 4 miserable bombers like this. I'm not saying there are 4 bombers, 4 miserable events like this.
Six days after the sinking of the Titanic, a chairman is appointed to head an investigation. 9 days after Pearl Harbor, the first of 4 investigative commissions is struck. The JFK assassination, the Challenger disaster, 7 days each.
Senator Tom Daschle said last week that you called him several times and urged him not to investigate the events of September 11th.
He said on one occasion that the president asked him to do that at a breakfast meeting. Are you now saying that they weren't asking to block an investigation?
How many days after 9/11 is it that President Bush named someone to head an investigation?
This commission has been charged with a crucial task.
President Bush had at first opposed any independent commission.
An investigation must not interfere with the ongoing efforts to prevent the next attack.
Can the Prime Minister clarify, has he once and for all ruled out having a proper independent inquiry?
I have ruled out having another proper and independent inquiry.
I have to disagree with the Prime Minister. The reason people want an independent inquiry is because of the scale of what happened in London on the 7th of July, when 52 people were murdered and 700 were injured. The reason people want a full inquiry is to get to the truth.
But in the meantime, let's hear from that press conference involving solicitors and relatives of those who were killed in the July the 7th bombings.
7th July 2005. To my left is Rose Morley, whose husband Colin died at Edgware Road. And to her left is Ernest Adams, whose son James died at the King's Cross bomb. They've been asking for an independent judicial investigation. Successive Home Secretaries have refused that request for an inquiry. And during the course of the hearing only a couple of weeks ago, Counsel for the Home Secretary continued to resist calls for any investigation.